Hi, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to the Harpin on Rugby Preview Show. Joining me to look ahead to Leinster's next outing in the BKT United Rugby Championship is someone back to the 30th pod. Welcome back to Mr. Mark Jackson.
Good evening, Jeff. How are you, sir?
Not too bad at all. Good to see you. Okay, so now before we get to our feature match, with the Heineken Champions Cup last 16 fixtures, dates set during the week, Mark, maybe you can quickly outline Leinster's task ahead, or maybe to put it another way, the road to Dublin.
Yeah, the homeward bound road to home sort of setup we've got. I know I'd say half of the Leinster fans are a bit wary of playing an interprovincial game in the last 16. You know, Ulster will be bang up for this. I think there's no point in giving predictions now because we've got a small matter of 5 important games coming up for the international side, and with a lot of major players from Leinster involved, we've got to see who comes out of it unscathed, as do Ulster for their bigger players like McCluskey and Henderson. So we won't put any predictions in for now, but you know, if you go by the seedings, Leinster should be coming up the end of May in a home final. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But like you've now got the teams have done away with their shadow boxing as such, and you won't see any teams being rested going forward. And I think there's a potential for a Munster semi-final if both teams get through. So that would be a bit of a humdinger as well at the Aviva. So it's nothing granted, but yeah, if form continues and no serious amount of injuries, as you said, it should be a home 16 quarters, semi and final, hopefully, for the boys in blue.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they haven't earned it in many ways. I mean, not only did they play literally for all 80 minutes of all 4 of their matches, right up to the very final whistle, trying to eke out as many points as they could to guarantee that top spot. But they felt they had kind of a point to prove after the last couple of seasons when we didn't get to play all our 4 matches, as few and all matches as we had with the COVID confusion and everything. It was good chance to actually play the 4 matches and finish in that top seed. So hopefully they'll be able to do it. But like you say, there's a lot of things to happen between now and then.
Yeah, just to touch on the last game especially, it was good to see Racing, who were never going to be guaranteed a spot even if they had won it, come out full bore at Leinster, and definitely put it up to them for as you said, for 80 minutes. They never stopped playing, never stopped trying. I know it sounds a bit patronizing to say that about a top European club, but we've seen in the past clubs send over academy players, giving guys that haven't played a lot of rugby just because they know they're probably not going to have a good outcome at Leinster. But I was really impressed with how Leinster dealt with the pressure from Racing, and hopefully that will stand us in good stead going forward.
Absolutely. Okay, well, now it's time to start harping on this week's feature match, which, as you can see there, is Leinster v Cardiff Rugby. It's in round 13 of the 22-23 BKT United Rugby Championship, and it kicks off at the RDS Arena at 5 p.m. on Saturday, January the 28th. The match is being broadcast on RTE2, Premier Sports, and URC.tv. Leinster named their starting lineup at lunchtime on Friday, so let's have a look at starting with the back line. At fullback, we've got Chris Cosgrave. On the wings, Dave Carney and Max O'Reilly. The centers, Ben Brownlee and Liam Turner, and the halfbacks, Luke McGrath and Harry Byrne.
Yeah, it's more of a callow, youthful backline than say the pack will be when we have a look at it. But you got some guys coming back from injury like Dave Carney, who's definitely got tries on his mind. I'd say nearing the top 3 of the Leinster try scorer list. Turner has made an impact for me every time he's played. I think some of the lines he runs, and he's had to play, I think, with 3 different centre partners in his time. I think he's just slotted in seamlessly. He's a player with a high ceiling going forward. Brownlee hasn't had much time, but has been impressive as well. I think it's the first time we've seen Max O'Reilly in a while, so it'll be interesting to see how Max goes. And the beauty of that back 3, you got Carney, who's an out-and-out winger. We got Cosgrave, and Max O'Reilly has covered at full back too. So I know a lot of the back 3s that are around these days have that interchangeable 14 and 15 or 15 and 11. So it's a good squad, and then some good experience there at 9, 10, 11 with Harry Byrne and Luke McGrath. Hopefully we see Harry kick on a little bit, and I think he always plays quite well with Luke McGrath. Luke McGrath is quite a calming influence there at 9, when Harry sometimes can lose the run of himself a little bit, but hopefully he's got enough around him there to one, step up and be a leader, but also have a bit of a crutch there in Luke McGrath at 9, bringing lots of experience.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll move on to the forwards now. The front row, we got Michael Milne, John McKean, Micah Alatoa. Second row, Ross Maloney and Brian Deeney. And then the back row, Reese Ruddock, who's captain, Scott Penny, and Max Deegan.
Yeah, again, you got McKee, who's has really impressed me actually in his limited outings. Obviously, Dan Sheehan's played, I don't know, 4,000 minutes this year so far due to the couple of injuries at that hooker position. But I'm impressed with Michael Milne every time I see him. He's put on a bit of size this year. He's been in the gym. Still needs a bit of work on his scrummaging. And I know Al Alatoa has been skying in a couple of scrums lately, but he's also played a vital role, him and Ross Maloney especially, at just shoring up a few deficiencies at ruck time, at maul time as well. Thought Ross Maloney had a big impact off the bench against Racing. He looked angry, and I'm sure he'll have another bit of anger in him that he's not in that Greater Ireland squad for the Six Nations. And then Brian Deeney would be the youthful, hopefully, energy that in there. And you've got Reese Ruddock and Max Deegan, who I expect two massive games from. Scott Penny, the mailman, always delivers. So I think the earlier on the WhatsApp chat, we were looking through that team. Everybody sort of gave it a thumbs up, and everybody pointed out one or two players in that starting lineup that they expect a lot from. I expect a lot from Max Deegan. I think from seeing him in person at the Harlequins preseason game, I think he's actually stepped his game up a little bit this year. He might have had one off night when we played. I think it was Connacht. He wasn't brilliant, and a couple of quiet moments. But this is the sort of game with the perceived first choice away with Ireland that he has a chance to impress going forward.
Definitely. Okay, so now that brings us to the bench. And the front row there is Ty McElroy, Marcus Hannon, and Thomas Clarkson. Then we've got James Culhan and Will Connors. And then the backs are Nick McCarthy, Charlie Tector, and Eitzell King.
Yeah, some great names there, especially from sort of the under 20 teams over the last couple of years. I would expect a big shift out of Milne, McKee, and Alatoa, not for any other reason that we haven't had a lot of minutes from Clarkson, Hannon, and McElroy since he's come back from his stint over at Sarries and at Ealing. I'd say we'll hopefully get a good 60, 65 minutes out of that starting front row, and then the guys to shore it up at the end. The two names that stick out for me on the bench are James Culhane and Will Connors. One, because he's hopefully making his debut at this level in Culhane, who we're sort of spoiled with young, aggressive ball carrying number eights with no little skill set in Coombs and in Doris going forward. But this guy may be the best at a lot of them potentially. He literally has it all. He showed under 20s level. And if there's one thing Ireland have been really good at, especially in all the provinces, is projecting those players from potential under 20s to actual reliable interpro players and then into international status. So he's a name I definitely keep on, and it's great to see Will Collins back. With these new laws that are apparently starting over here, he would be perfect man for that. As we saw with some of the body images, he doesn't really tackle above the shin level, so he'll come on and do his chopping job. And then McCarthy's had a good season, and it's fantastic to see 220s from last year in Tector and Eitzell King. Eitzell King is a real prospect on the wing. He's something that we don't produce a lot of, is monster type wings. He's a big, heavy, aggressive winger, very good going forward. It'll be interesting to see how much time he does get, if he gets much time, but I'm sure he'll be itching to get on the pitch.
Absolutely, yeah. When Will Connors hits you in around the thigh area, you might have a quick hook up to the ref, afraid he's going to blow for a high tackle. As far as he's concerned, So it's definitely good to see him back, because he definitely needs to run at games.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's shown now this season compared to maybe last year and the year before. Although we've used similar numbers of players, the guys getting serious minutes are getting less and less. Because of there's a little bit less rotation, but it's when the Ireland camp comes around, it's when guys have to take their chance. You're not going to get as many chances, I don't think, these days as you did last year or the year before. So I think it's vital that the young lads definitely step up. And Connors is still relatively young in terms of experience. He's been a super sub, and he's had the odd game. No offense to Benetton or Zebra in those sorts of matches, but it'd be interesting to see him against a pretty abrasive looking Cardiff pack as well.
Absolutely. Okay, so now it's time to have a look at our opposition, which is, of course, Cardiff. And as ever, my graphics department put the names on the screen, or if you're listening on the podcast, they can be found in the program notes. Now, we had a bonus pod during the week where we spoke to a couple of lads from the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Pod, and Cardiff fan Reese John pointed out that although they've lost a few to the Six Nations, they can still feel a good bit of experience, including many who have beaten Leinster before, Mark.
Yeah, last year we certainly got our comeuppance when we played them around this sort of time. And you take a look at that team, starting at the back, Reece Priestland is a really good signing for Cardiff. He's out of position at 15, but he'll have a very good kicking game in what won't be balmy conditions, I'm sure. Owen Lane's a big, strong, aggressive carrier on the wing. Ray Lilo as well. So the youthful guys of Brownlee and Turner and Cosgrave and that will have a few big lads running down their channels, and they'll probably have a lot of taking the ball out of the sky early on, I'd say as well. Jared Evans is a very good kicker, off the floor. He's a bit mercurial. He's probably the Welsh version of Finn Russell, but a couple of steps below that level, I think. Lloyd Williams is a typical Welsh line, very good breaker, very good at bringing us forwards into the game. And then looking at that pack, you got Tamani's a big lump, as is Seb Davis, but the two guys in the back row that will bring a hell of a lot to their game would be Turnbull, who's one of the probably most underrated, underappreciated players in the URC. He's a fair old age at this stage, but he just keeps churning out really good, aggressive performances, be it playing a 5, 6, or 8. And Liam Botham's a very good player as well. He gets over the ball. He's a good, aggressive ball carrier also. So there's nothing easy there for Leinster. And as we said last year, we had a bit of a banana slip there, and this is a potential banana slip on the road to perfection as well.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we're going to have a look. Well, just name our officials. It's a South Africans in the crew. Jaco Piper has the whistle. And there's good old Marius Jonker up in the box with Joy Neville and Andrew Fogarty running the lines. The weather for Dublin Saturday evening is supposed to be mostly cloudy with only 8% chance of rain. That doesn't seem to be a lot of wind, so pretty good conditions in D4 there, which brings us on, of course, to our predictions. And we're going to start. We start with the other provinces now. We're going to start with Ulster v Stormers. I have a pretty good. We might come up with a pretty accurate prediction for the first half, given the time we're recording. But what way did you think that was going to go, Mark?
I think on my original Super Brew prediction, I think I had Ulster by 11. It's not too far off that at the moment, so we'll see how the second half progresses. There's a lot of Ulster guys might have a bit of a chip on their shoulder. It's not exactly a weakened Stormer side that they might send over to the Northern Hemisphere. There's some big players there coming back from injury. So I think initially I had Ulster by 11, and I'll stick with that for now.
Okay, and Benetton v Munster.
I think Benetton might be a bit shaken with all the shenanigans that have been going on over there. And I say shenanigans really, really biting my tongue in what has been a disgraceful couple of months for that club. I think they've really lost a lot of their Benetton bandwagon or get on the Benetton bus fans for what has been a terrible racist incident. And the player today was announced that he was just banned for the rest of the season, whereas everybody goes, he should have been fired. I don't care what anybody says. You say stuff like that to anybody, never mind a teammate, gone. He should be sacked, as far as I'm concerned. And whoever their disciplinary board is, it's getting up there with the guys that gave Owen Farrell 2 weeks. It's some of the rugby fraternity need to take a long, hard look at themselves in terms of how they approach disciplinary issues, be it tackle height, be it any sort of mitigation that they're bringing into it. And this sort of takes the biscuit now with a really shocking Christmas story that came out there. And they should be ashamed of how they dealt with that player. So for once, I really hope Munster sticking to them. I predicted a Munster win by about 12 points. I'd like to see it doubled, tripled, quadrupled. If they put a 50 burger on them, I'd be delighted. I'd be singing Fields of Athenry, even though it's not a fucking Munster song, loud and proud. I hope Munster go and do a job on them.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's we hate talking about all this extra stuff, but it just keeps happening, and we do have to call it out when it happens. There's so many different things going on. Pretty much every union almost seems to have something going on at the moment, but it's terrible. But we still have to call it out. Okay, so that
Yeah.
moves us on to Connacht, who host the Lions.
Yeah. Connacht are always the one you flip a coin with. They could put 35 points on this lot, or they could lose by 5. You know, it depends their attitude and mindset, I think, more than anything else. There's not a lot of Connacht guys in the Ireland squad, so they should be able to pick a relatively strong team. I'd fancy Connacht by 15 because I don't think the Lions are the greatest travellers in the world. But the advantage that South African teams have now is they don't have to rest players if they don't want to. They will rest a few. Because of earlier minutes that they have in the summer and the November internationals. I know there's not all of them playing, but the Lions don't travel as well as those other teams. And I think Connacht, if they're focused on it, could put a few points on it. But I think I've got Connacht by about 13, 14 points in that one.
Okay. And that just leaves our match at the RDS now. I mean, like you said yourself, it could be a bit of a banana skin. I mean, you point out loads of things. There's a disparity kind of experience in the centers. We may not have the strongest reserve front row we've ever had, but on Cardiff side, as you say, they a lot of them know how to beat Leinster. They won't be that afraid. Plus, they need to get something from Dublin. The way their season is set up, they're on the fringes of the top 8. So, how do you see it going?
I think I've got Leinster by 8. I think there's a lot of young guys that are playing for game time. You know, so the next few weeks of games, and they have to take their chances. And I've been really impressed with Turner, and I hope Harry Byrne and Max Deegan step up in those. You know, the 8, 9, 10 combinations for both teams are vital here. Sorry, 6 for Cardiff, more so than their 8. But if that middle part of the team, the back row and half backs go well for Leinster, I think Leinster will win by a try point here or there. But it will be an arm wrestle for a while. It won't be easy.
Okay, so now speaking of predictions, just reminding the listeners, we're going to be running a competition throughout the Six Nations in association with the Fanzo app, known as the Guinness Pint Predictor. There'll be weekly prizes for the top scorers, but basically everyone who plays can win a free pint for themselves from each of the 15 matches. And even before the tournament starts, why not have a go at their quiz? There's pints to be won there as well. It's all there on the app. We'll give you more details when we launch after the weekend. Just keep an eye on the main site for details. Okay, we're going to leave it there. Many thanks, Mark, for joining me on the preview show. Hope to have you on again soon.
Yeah, look forward to it, and thanks again for having me.
No problem. And to everyone else, be sure and join the conversation on Mastodon throughout the match. Then maybe head over to Facebook page at full time and leave your thoughts there. In the meantime, stay safe, everyone. Slán.